Hello and welcome to the show. My name is Alex and this is TechFlow. So I've had the Apple MacBook for probably about 2 months now. I know it's a little bit outdated, but a lot of people are asking, Alex, what's your thoughts and what do you think of it? So here's the video. Let's get straight into it.
Hey, kid! How you feel?
So, kicking things off, we all know this laptop is super thin. We've got 35mm at its thinnest point and 135mm at its thickest. Crazy thin for a laptop. I think it's thinner than my phone. It also weighs in at just over £2, which makes this the perfect tablet replacement as far as form factor is concerned anyway. So that's brilliant. It's super thin, really light, and it's a gorgeous looking device. But what's the sacrifice? Let's talk about interacting with this machine. We've got the two main things, the keyboard and the trackpad. Let's get the keyboard out the way first. There's pretty much zero travel on the keyboard. And if you don't know what that means, it's pretty much when you press down on the keys, they don't travel. There's no travel, and there can't really be any travel because this laptop is so thin. Now, when I first typed on the laptop, I hated it. Honestly, I hated it. It feels like you're typing on cardboard. It's absolutely awful. But give it 2 weeks and you sort of really do get used to it, and it is a really nice experience. But the thing is, you got to bear it in mind, you do have to get used to it, and it is a different experience. There's nothing else like this. What I'm saying is you can get used to it, but it takes time, and when you first use it, it literally does feel like you're typing on cardboard. It's horrible. But I'm used to it now and I actually quite like it. Next up is the trackpad. Now this thing is a solid piece of glass and it's actually really gorgeous to use. Now Apple have taken a different approach. Usually when you press down on the trackpad on your laptop, you get a little click. Apple have totally got rid of this because the laptop is so thin and it's all simulated. Apple actually have what's called a Haptic Engine underneath this trackpad. And honestly, it's really cool. Let me explain. Pretty much you go into the settings of the laptop and you can physically change if the trackpad clicks or not. It's literally incredible. I actually really like this method, and you can tell that they actually use this method if you turn the laptop completely off and press down on the trackpad. There's no click whatsoever. It's just like you're pushing on a window, like an actual window in your house. The thing is that I really do like this because you can physically go into the settings in the laptop and change how you want the trackpad to react depending on what you like and what you prefer. Say if you prefer a hard tactile press or a soft tactile press, you can physically change that and have it exactly how you want. And when I was messing around with it, I was like, this is just really incredible. With this as well, Apple have also put Force Touch into the trackpad. Now that pretty much is a little bit of software and hardware working together, that it knows how hard you press down on the trackpad. You can do certain things like mess around in maps with this, get locations, drop pins, and you can also do it on the web browser and look up words via the dictionary just by hovering over the word with your mouse and force clicking on that word. Now the third thing to talk about is the webcam. Let me explain. And this is the quality you're getting from the webcam and microphone. Shame on you, Apple. Shame on you. Invent FaceTime HD and then don't put an HD camera in your latest flagship product. But other than that, this is the best laptop I've ever used. Honestly, it's a pleasure to have this thing. I mean, have you seen it? It's just absolutely drop dead gorgeous. But then again, it should be for the price. The screen is absolutely gorgeous as well. It's really bright when it wants to be and really dark when it wants to be. You have those controls on your keyboard to change that at your will. And it comes in at 226 DPI. So watching 4K and 2.7K footage on this thing is, again, absolutely gorgeous. And a lot of people say at this form factor you're not really going to notice the resolution from 1080p up to 226 DPI. But no, I don't agree. You really do. The screen is super crisp. Honestly, looking at web pages, Wikipedia, all the text, it really does just pop. It's super crisp, and Apple have honestly nailed it. And just under that gorgeous display, we've actually got a even more gorgeous set of speakers. I don't know what Apple have done here, but the speakers are just insane. The best I've heard on a laptop and in this small form factor as well. Apple, they've done something to these speakers. They are so loud. They could do with more bass, but they are really loud, really crisp. And listening to music on this thing, I'd happily do it without an external speaker, man. This is this is good stuff. I like it. So inside this thing, let's talk specs. We've got an Intel 1.2 GHz Core M processor, 8 GB of RAM, which is DDR3, and 1.5 GB of dedicated display graphics, which is Intel 5300 graphics. As you can tell, this is not a powerful machine. But along with it not being powerful, also lets it be fanless, so it makes no noise. And this is the thing with Apple, right? This is how they've nailed it. This is how they're getting away with this. It's their OS optimization. With the hardware and the OS designed to work specifically with that hardware, this thing takes 5 seconds to turn on with a 1.2 GHz processor. It's all in the software. Honestly, in the OS, they've just nailed it. 5 seconds to turn this thing on from being completely off. Again, using Final Cut Pro X, which again is Apple software, as I've mentioned before, OS optimization. You can edit 4K video on this thing. As well as Photoshop runs like a dream, web browsing is simple, you can watch 4K YouTube videos. I can do everything I want to do on this thing. And it's a 1.2 GHz processor. On paper, it doesn't sound like it can cope, but because of the optimization, it can. What I'm saying is, you can edit 4K on this thing, but you can do it in Final Cut Pro X, and that's all you can do it in. Put Premiere on this thing, and it'll stutter like a madman. But with Final Cut Pro S optimization, it works. You can edit 4K. I can physically say you can edit 4K on this thing. I'm doing all this as well. I've managed to have a 6-hour battery life. Apple claim 9, I get around 6. But the awesome thing is as well, if you go out and buy a USB Type-C to USB cable, you can keep this thing powered up on an external battery pack like I do. On my trips down to London, I always take my external battery pack, and when I'm coming back from London, my laptop's usually dead. I can just plug it into my external charger like I would do with my phone, and it's charging up and I'm back up and running again. Now the main issue with this laptop. I/O. With it being so thin, they can't even fit a normal USB port on this thing, which is really disappointing. I myself, every single day, am always messing around with cameras, offloading and putting files onto a computer from an SD card out of my camera. This thing doesn't even have an SD card reader in it, and that's not because Apple can't be bothered to put one in, it's because they can't fit one in. It's so goddamn thin. Now, it's not really an issue. I have bought numerous third-party adapters from eBay and Amazon, which give me charging pass-through with the one USB Type-C port, as well as 2 USB ports and a micro SD card reader and a normal SD card reader. I've also got another adapter which gives me an HDMI out port with a charging pass-through and a USB port. But with this thing being $1,200 is what I bought it for, really, Apple, include it in the box for Christ's sake. I'll link all my third-party adapters that I'm currently using in the description if you guys want to check them out. So with all of that out the way, it leads us to our conclusion. This is the most classy laptop I've ever physically used, and it's honestly a dream to use it. I can edit 4K video on this thing. I can do some light Photoshop work on this thing. I can web browse, watch YouTube videos, consume media, do my emails, Excel, Word spreadsheets. You can do it all. This is probably the most classy way to do it, but also probably the most expensive way to do it. If portability is your main concern and you want something small that's fairly powerful and capable, then I hate to say it, but this is the thing to go for. But if you want something else that's a little bit more powerful, maybe you want to do some work in Premiere or have a gazillion Chrome tabs open, you are going to want to get something more powerful. But you know what? If you're okay with having 3 or 4 tabs open, you want to do a little bit of light 4K to 1080p editing in Final Cut Pro X, a little bit of light Photoshop work, you've got your emails to do, this thing will take care of it no problem, with great battery life, and you'll be also doing all of that in great style. Hopefully this review has helped you and your buying choices. My name's been Alex, this has been TechFlow, and we'll catch you in the next one.
Hey,